Hello and greetings from Kolkata Regional Center. We'd like to welcome you all to our second podcast. As you are aware, we have been holding this podcast so that we could invite some of our exceptionally bright minds with us who could share their ideas on some of the contemporary concerns, issues, and also to enhance your knowledge about areas that you may not have dealt with so far. So here we are to start our podcast for the day, and this podcast is going to be on a discussion where we will discuss on technology-enabled education and the role of institutions in mitigating digital divide. As you all know, digital divide is an extremely important challenge for any university and for our entire education system, which is more and more depending on technology to enhance the quality. So we have here with us Professor Saurabh Basu. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Welcome.
Professor Saurabh Basu is a senior professor at the Department of Physics, IIT Guwahati. His research is in the area of theoretical studies of condensed matter systems. Dr. Basu has 6 physics courses so far on the NPTEL SWAMP platform, which are very, very popular among students and researchers and teachers. Also, there are 4 authored books from international publishing houses such as the American Institute of Physics, Institute of Physics, IOP Springer, and Cambridge University Press, other than having a number of book chapters. On the administrative front, Dr. Basu has served in key administrative positions such as officiating director of IIT Bhaglapur, council member of Northeastern Hill University, NEHU, board member of NIT Arunachal, Senate nominee of NIT Meghalaya, Dean Outreach HOD Physics, Director of Public and Staff Grievances, Training and Placement, in charge at IIT Guwahati. Besides being a researcher and a teacher, he is passionate about spreading awareness about science and developing a scientific temper amongst young students. Thank you so much for being with us. We heartily welcome you to our second podcast, and a number of learners from IGNOU, and as you know, the entire IGNOU outreach program is a huge platform, and we expect that your words are going to reach out to almost 35 lakh learners who were given certificates this time for our 37th convocation. So that's basically how far our outreach through IGNOU is. Just a brief line, or just to create a little background for how our discussion will be. COVID 2019 brought some very significant issues, and it revealed some very, very uncontestable realities in front of our. One was, there were many other realities we understood about when through COVID, but one significant reality which we understood was that education had to be boundless. It had to be beyond borders of space and time, and it had to be flexible, it had to be relevant, it had to be very innovative. We have to make education not just, we have to see beyond going out of the classroom and see how each one of us or each member of society can have an access to education, and thereby saying that we need to create an education system which will be very, very universal, no boundaries of any kind of barriers, even age for that matter can be overcome, and also to see that all the peripheral marginalized sections of society can be brought on board. And we need not just make education as some kind of an exclusive elitist practice through which only the elites have an access to. Now, when we understood that, we also found that technology was the most important instrument to allow this to happen, because it is through technology that we could reach the final leveling in society, the final, to achieve a kind of an equitable distribution through education. So technology enabled education became one of our most important focus. And if you remember, Professor Basu, Kolkata Regional Center, IGNOU Kolkata Regional Center also had a webinar way back in 2019, which was just after NEP was, was in the move, and of course COVID was rampant, and we all decided to have this webinar where we had directors of IITs, and we had directors of AICT,
Yes.
yeah, Professor Sastra Buddhe, Professor Gautam Barua, you were also there, part of that. And through NEP, we wanted to understand how ODL could be made more effective, how we could optimize the resources of ODL so that we could make education more equitable, more accessible, and that was the main discussion forum at that time. And we realized that we did realize that there would be challenges of digital divide, but once we started implementing education through technology, we realized that digital divide was indeed a huge problem for a country like India. So even when we chart out an almost perfect plan of education, technology enabled education, we still get hiccups when we come to how will everyone have an access to this brilliant plan that we can make up. So here we are, again battling these kind of issues and these challenges, and why we are out here. So we thought that through this podcast, we'll try and reach out to the general learners of IGNOU, and even because it is social media distributed, we'll try to have a conversation of how science and technology, and what are the linkages of science and technology, traditionally, how do we understand? Because sometimes what happens, and when we got so involved with the implementing technologies, we sometimes forget what is the existing scenario in front of us, what are the paradigms of current societies, how is it that, how can we run and the infinite project of human endeavors that we want to do within the finite borders of our planet, how can all these how do we make these things possible? So I'd like to invite you to give us a little understanding on science education, the importance of science education, and how appropriate science education can help us create the appropriate technologies which is most compatible for our society at this point of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Dutta Hazarika. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I feel once again that I'm quite privileged that you have, thought me to be worthy of such a discussion, and it indeed is an important point that we all need to ponder about. And it just reminds me of that famous quote, which is given everywhere, that when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And it was really true at that COVID time, the onset of COVID time, when people just did not know how to move ahead with education, when there was a complete lockdown across the country and we had to resort to online teaching and research, and all these teaching learning scenario had to be revived in the online mode, and it was very difficult and so on. Anyway, coming to how science is relevant to the society, how science and this technology are related to each other. It's very important to understand that there's science everywhere. We look at science in our daily life, and I myself am a sort of proponent of science among the masses, particularly the school children, college children, and sometimes the school teachers as well. And I keep telling them that there is this blue litmus paper turning red in acid. This is taken as a hallmark, signature of an acid. So if you take a blue litmus paper, you dip it in acid, it becomes red. And this is called as a chemistry experiment. But then what I try teaching people is that it's not really only a chemistry thing, but it has also a lot to do with physics, because acid is just a concentration of the hydrogen ions, and when a litmus paper, a blue colored litmus paper, it absorbs a lot of hydrogen ions, the light it reflects shifts from being, red, from being blue to being red. So it goes to the other end of the spectrum. And there are many other examples which we see every day, and sometimes we think about them, sometimes we don't. But it's very important for us to, ponder about these things. Like you come across these hot desert days. One sees a mirage. Mirage is like there's no water, but you see a reflection on the ground, and you think that that's water, but there's no water there. And then there are many of them, like
That is so much of science, yet we do not pay attention to this, and we think it's just a phenomena to be.
Yeah, it's just a phenomena that happens, and we don't think about it. Like, I give you another example which is very sort of relevant to villages. There are hard water, and hard waters, they're very difficult to wash clothes or take a bath because the soap just doesn't go away. And the reason is that there are calcium and magnesium salts which are formed, and they don't they're not water soluble. So you have to really spend a lot of water. And so how to actually these heavy elements like calcium and magnesium, how to reduce them from water is an important thing. And one should, as even not being a scientist, one should really worry about it. And we see red lights being, used at the signals, traffic signals, and green lights are for you to go. So we use halting means, or when you have to stop, one uses red lights, and for giving you a go-ahead signal, it's used green. And the reason is that red light scatters list. So it is seen from a long distance, and green light, of course, scatters. But then that it's time for you to go. So a red means stop, and that's like universally used.
So you can see it from a distance that you have to.
You can see it from a distance, and then you stop. So there are many other things. I mean, the sun. People say that it was very hot earlier, and then it's cooling down. Universe is expanding, and various other things which are cosmological, splendor. But do we really think about that? How first time that someone actually said that the day has 24 hours, and we have 7 days a week, and then we have 52 weeks a year, and then we have 365 days, and we have a 366th day for a leap year and all that. All these things actually came from very careful observation of the planetary motion, which add a lot of knowledge and satisfaction in the minds of people who would like to see them, who would like to understand them, who would like to sort of think that how we can imbibe all these things which are taken to be absolutely as if there's something written in the religious texts, but they're not. If you think about it, there's an answer to all these questions. So there is a great need of promoting scientific literacy, that we feel that that the world is a lot of people who do not understand science, especially where the facilities are less, such as in villages, in other underdeveloped areas, and so on. So the science communication, propagation of science is an important aspect which we all need to ponder about, and see that how we can make best use of the situation of the technology to educate people about a lot of things that are happening around. And these are the main things that probably we are going to talk about today. And it really gives me a pleasure to introduce or reach out to a number that you've just mentioned, which is enormously large. and much larger than even I
And
can, think of.
they have the flexibility of reaching out to your lecture whenever they want to, at their own pace and their own time. But what you just said right now, in course of my research, I was finding that the Constitution of India, through the 42nd Amendment, we have the Article 51A, which actually tells the citizens of India should have a scientific temperament, and it encourages that. It's there in our constitution. So we have to, we are a scientific nation
Absolutely.
basically by in principle.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, science has evolved as a powerful tool, for understanding the world around us, what we see every day, and but it may be difficult for people to actually grasp the scientific concepts if they are not produced or if they're not presented properly. That's a very important thing. So science communication is important for people to build trust in science. That's important, and when they actually understand science, they would trust the scientist, and they would actually digress from the religious belief which have no scientific base or scientific rationale. And these are the important issues that are very important. We have to encourage people, particularly in the rural areas, particularly in the areas where there are less academic institutions, to engage in science, to participate in science, and this science communication by experts. I mean, science communication doesn't mean that you go and give a very technical talk to a place where people would not be able to, appreciate what you have talked. And maybe it's very good, maybe the content is very good, and maybe that adds a lot of, development to the ongoing research. But if it's not communicated properly to the masses, then it's of no use.
Through simple day-to-day experiments like the examples you've just given,
Absolutely.
noticing these things which we probably walk through and we won't even notice.
Absolutely.
But that there is a scientific phenomenon underneath that to be sensitive to those things,
that is exactly what I'm saying. I mean, that's so you have to flag those issues and tell them in a layman's language. And there are many things that people need to be aware of, which they may not be. I mean, this climate change is occurring, and we know that these glaciers are melting. There's an overall increase in temperature. I'm sure I, and everyone who are watching, they have seen 15, 20 years back how the environment was, or how the sort of temperature was, and
Yes.
then suddenly we are facing that we are unable to do without an AC or without a cooler, and so on, and all these things are adding to the pollution. So are we really informed enough? This has to be communicated. Water conservation. Several places in India, they face water crisis, and connecting the rivers is one of the projects that is under focus. So we need to understand, and all these things. Then there's a scientific, information that is important. At the same time, there's a technological advancement that's important.
Absolutely.
And this is what we are trying to discuss here, that it's very important to combine the science and technology. You understand what is there in science which is impeding our livelihood, which is sort of making the world more hazardous for us, and find out a solution through technology.
Absolutely.
So
So correct. So it's just giving a kind of what I take from it. So we have the science methodology of science, the rational methodology of science, how to systematically study. So science gives us the mode and the rational thinking, how one should address social problems or natural problems, whatever. And then through those scientific methods, we create technology which is going to then become the more dynamic, active solution package.
Absolutely.
So now, if one does not understand science properly, or the methodology of science properly, or the critical thinking and the rational thinking properly, chances are that you may end up getting or reaching your the answers in a very erroneous manner.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
when we talk about the kind of environmental degradation that is happening, what is causing what, and how it can be, sometimes if you see the thing of our dam building, just bringing you to that,
Yeah.
for sometimes we are not really aware even interlinkages of rivers, as you said.
Right.
When you link rivers, when you build a dam, what are the repercussions that really happens from a technological point of view? You build a dam. We've seen what has happened in Uttarakhand.
Yes.
It's fantastic to build a dam and think that immediately there is electricity, but what really happens now? Is it really the job of only the specialists, or should the community be made sensitive to understanding what are the repercussions of each action that they take, how they look at it? That's how you are trying to connect technology to common society, common people, and that is how the relevance of it is. So for each one of us who's sitting out here, all of us have a responsibility for rational thoughts. We don't have to be scientists, but we have to make sure that we take those stands which take us towards rational thinking, and we can move on to understand what exactly the repercussions of our choices of actions, what are we doing, and what is going to be the outcome of that. Each one of us need to be aware of it if we take a rational scientific spirit amidst us. That's of course a very
I mean,
was, yes.
since you said this,
Yes.
you also brought up another issue which I did not touch upon, is the societal impact, and also taking the socialists and probably the political repercussions as well have to be kept in mind. A dam being built, has may have a sort of ramification on the neighboring state or the neighboring country, and these things have to be thought in a holistic manner
Yes.
in its entirety,
Absolutely.
so that there is no this acrimony to reduce all the acrimony between states and between countries and so on. So it's not only the science and the technology, but it's also the socialists, sociologists, and you yourself sociologist by profession, and then the political science people. They have to assess and ascertain that what could be the the ramifications that are going to follow. We should not look at it with a myopic view, and should have a much more thought about and research outlook to it. And basically, the science, studying science or being aware of it, develops this analytic mind in the people, that what could be, you don't look at it what will happen a few months or a few years down the line, but try to think. Sometimes it's difficult, what could happen 10 to 15 years down the line.
Absolutely. After all, we cannot think anymore in terms of that we will build our resources, exploit our resources, quickly build our empire, and then we will we go. We cannot. We are connected.
We are connected.
When COVID happened, we realized something which was happening, a little offshoot of what is happening in China, was affecting the entire world.
Absolutely.
When a little splinter of conflict happens in a northeast village somewhere in the thing, the repercussion through social media, see what the Kolkata factor has brought into. So we are so connected in a connected, interconnected world which is so borderless. There is no other choice but to understand scientifically or be sensitive to science as a spirit of inquiry.
Absolutely.
This is now. This brings us from the context of where we are today, here, sitting out here in Kolkata Regional Center, and everything that is going on around us. And it's our privilege that we have you here with us, a scientist from Bengal, the huge legacy and heritage that Bengal, it was said that earlier that what Bengal thinks today, the rest of the world follows. That is what it was. But can we today sit here and say that? And if we cannot, then what would you like to tell us about Bengal's scientific spirit or the lack of it at maybe at this point of history?
Oh, that's a fantastic question that you've come up with,
It's a big one.
and it's a big one, and it will only come from someone who's really thinking about things that's happening in Bengal, and I would be still very very optimistic about the science that's happening in Bengal. The technology part has taken a beating in the recent past, but I'm sure that it'll come back and will again sort of be a prominent state in all of India. And not that we are not, we still are prominent and so on, and but we had lost a bit of fizz as compared to many other states who have come up in the recent past. And I feel good, I mean, as an Indian,
Yes.
I feel good that other states are doing well. For example, a neighboring state like Odisha has done really well in terms of technological development, infrastructure, and many other things like Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, they are doing well, and even a state like UP has been doing extremely well in the recent times. There are problems with northeastern states, some of them at least, and they are battling their own sort of geopolitical issues. But let's come back to this science and Bengal, and let me sort of enlighten our viewers about a few things which are very important for one to know, and how the Bengalis have contributed to the science and are still contributing at this moment. So I'll start with Radhanath Sikdar, who actually in 1850s, early 1850s, he measured the height of the peak that's Mount Everest. That's the peak that was, that was the tallest peak at that time, and it probably still is. And he was a statistician, and India was still under the British rule, and the Britishers had to agree that this was not an easy job, which he actually performed with whatever resources that he had. Then Calcutta University, which was very well known and still is well known for its education and research. It was founded in 1857, where all these teaching and research started. Soon after that, in 1876, Mahendra Lal Sarkar, he founded the Association for Cultivation of Science, that's in Jadavpur. It's one of the premier institutes in India and still is, and it's sort of one of the top rated research institute. And not only that, there are other institutes, I'll come to that, which is there in that Jadavpur area. This became this IACS, it's called Indian Association for Cultivation of Science. It is the oldest research institute in India, founded in 1876. And you'll be happy to know that C.V. Raman, who got a Nobel Prize for scattering of light, which is called as a Raman effect. So he came and joined in 1907, and he got a Nobel Prize in 1930. And then, of course, he left Calcutta in 1933 probably, and then went back to Bangalore, and his institute, an institute called Raman Research Institute was founded in his name. So the latter half of 19th century, it really saw a lot of outstanding scientists, and many of them have contributed not only in terms of science, but they also have financially helped the ecosystem, the academic ecosystem, to come up in a much better way. And I'll give you the example of Sir Prafulla Chandra Ray. He was there between 1861 to 1944, and is termed as the father of Indian chemistry. And Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose, he was there between 1858 to 1937, and he's called as the father of wireless communication. So these were the two stalwarts who were there in the later half of the 19th century. And there was this Bengal chemical that was set up around that same time, and they have a range of products, and they had also supplied products to the entire country, which was still under British rule. Several people rose to the occasion. I have spoken to Dr. Datta Hazarika that we'll be talking about the contribution of Bengalis in science on a separate,
Yes,
webinar,
yes, we
and
will have that.
I would look forward to, say that.
Yes.
So S.N. Bose, all of you know about it. Him, his name is Satyendranath Bose, and he was the person who formulated Bose-Einstein statistics. And as we stand here today in 2024, it's 100th year of Bose-Einstein statistics. So it was the way it came up was very interesting, because people could not fit the black body radiation curve as obtained experimentally with the theory. And there's somebody called Planck who sort of out of desperation, he that fitted that formula, which was later derived and established by S.N. Bose, that this is really the statistics that the photons obey, and photons are nothing but the quantum of electromagnetic radiation. And if you want to know what is electromagnetic radiation, we have it all there. It's light, the common man's word for electromagnetic radiation in light. And
Just
so
see that. that's also to be known now.
And light is actually, it's been exchanged with the surrounding in some quanta which are called as photons, and they have some discrete energy. Apart from S.N. Bose, there's M.N. Saha, J.C. Ghosh, J.N. Mukherjee, Amaresh Chakravarti, P.B. Sarkar, U.N. Karmakar, T.S. Muthu, D.M. Bose. This D.M. Bose's name would come along with S.N. Bose on several occasions. So N.C. Nag, N.R. Sen, B.R. Roy, S.N. Karmakar, many other people. So this J.C. Bose, Jagdish Chandra Bose, on whose name there's this Bose Institute, I'll just come to that. He prepared a list of brilliant young scientists in those days. And remember, we are talking about early 1900. And when the internet was not there, a lot of equipment are not there. And in that kind of an ecosystem, he really built people who can be, who were internationally recognized for their contribution in science. Sir Ashutosh Mukherjee, he's known as the Bengal Tiger or the Tiger of Bengal. He was a mathematician, he was lawyer at the High Court, he was an educationalist, and he was a vice chancellor of Calcutta University.
Interdisciplinarity is
Absolutely.
completely.
Absolutely, a multi,
Yes,
talented
yes,
person.
absolutely.
Yeah. And he set up these postgraduate departments and science departments and Indian languages in the Calcutta University. And very interestingly, Calcutta University was this College of Science. It was set up in 1914 with generous contributions from two individuals, Sir Tarak Nath Palit, who contributed 14 lakhs, and Sir Rajbihari Ghosh, who was contributed 21 lakhs in those days. Then there was Prashanta Chandra Mahalanobis. He's termed as the father of statistics in India, and he is the curator of these 5-year plan. And we have these ISI named after him, or rather set up by him. And he was a director of this ISI, Indian Statistical Institute in Kolkata. And he started this institute in 1932, and he was there as a director till he passed away. We had this first IIT Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, that was set up in just after independence, 1948-49, and it is still termed as one of the premier institutes in the country. And its brand name is there across the entire world. And this was in 1949, and it was interestingly was set up with Bhagalpur College of Engineering on the same year, and Muzaffarpur Institute of Technology called MIT, and certainly IIT Kharagpur is much well known compared to these other institutes that
The
have come.
building of, I'm sorry, butting in a little bit of, the building of IIT Kharagpur was a detention center.
Yes, that's true. That's
Right?
true. That's
So
a jail.
yeah,
Yes,
that was
it's
a
a
jail, and where
jail.
the first IIT of India was
Absolutely,
there. It's a symbolism of freedom, I think, in that sense,
absolutely,
from a detention center to a
absolutely.
spirit of scientific inquiry.
Making it as an epitome of knowledge. Once again, I store it for a later talk, as we have talked about.
Yes.
But then it's very important that what you have brought up, that it was actually a jail, and they wanted to, sort of make that place as an educational institution, which would be considered as one of the top institutes in the country, and not only in the country but in the whole world. That showed that how forward-looking Bengalis
Yes,
were at that
absolutely.
time, and this really had lived up to his expectation. It was called the Hijli jail, and yeah,
Detention center.
detention center. So, then there are many other institutes that have come up. The SN Bose National Center for Basic Sciences, very close to your campus here. Saha Institute of Nuclear Physics, not too far again. Jadavpur University, which has, been ranked as one of the top universities in the country. Calcutta University, of course, we have talked about. We have talked about there are these Bardhaman University, then there are North Bengal University, then there are these CMERI Institute, that's a sort of institute in Durgapur. Then there are CGCRI in Jadavpur, again IICB, which is what I told earlier, that there are a number of very good institutes which are competing with not only the national standards of education and research, but they are also leading in the whole world. I mean, they are scientists which are being cited, their work are being cited, they have a lot of contributions. And so Bengal had a bit of a very sort of bright legacy of science, even engineering, a lot of engineering colleges, including the IIT that we have talked about. Industrial development has taken a beating in the recent past, but we also need to realize that with so much of potential around, with so much of people, with the able people, visionary people, people who are good educationists around, I'm sure it'll spring back, and
And
will
I'm
again.
sure we all hope that that happens in the near future. And of course, now this brings us to understanding we've established, and you've already said, and about Bengal and its rich legacy of science education, its legacy of scientists, and not only scientists, they were humanists to begin with. They were humanists who had social service in their, as part of their concern. It was not like even talking about starting a Manhattan project.
Yes.
It was actually thinking of how to make society move on forward. So there is a very, very significant marker that we should make in that scientists who came from here had these kind of modalities and these kind of concerns in their mind. So that also brings us again to, yes, our contemporary situation, the contemporary situation, where we are probably not successful to the extent that we should have by now to have taken our technology forward. Because as you said, we have so many IITs, we have so many institutions of science and technology, we have so many renowned scientists, and we have done remarkable advances in our science and technology, no doubt. But we still have a huge population who is still lagging behind, and we don't know how. The most the most sort of, I would say, almost the most easy way, or the most effective way comes to my mind at this point would be possible collaboration of institutions to come together. If institutions come together, have sharing of resources, have sharing of ideas, have sharing of interests, there may be differences in the sharing of mandates, because each institutions have their own mandates. But institutions can still come together and lend a hand and see what happens. One of the challenges that I feel we face at this point is when we talk of technology enabled education, when we talk of technology in every, and today it is not just a university of IGNOU which is talking about technology or its programs to online, it is each and every university who has to make a mandate of their online education. Now, where is that online education connectivity? Where is that access to technology? Where is that internet connectivity going to come from? If we go if we visit any of the countries abroad, you'll find somehow technology have been made so inclusive that it is almost to the point of a problem, because you don't know what's happening. Because then the question of cybersecurity comes in. How safe is your data? That is a different problem. But in our country, our students who come here, and Kolkata has tried, we have noticed that happening. We are giving them programs, we are giving really relevant programs on online mode. They have to come take admission in the online mode, but they come and wait and they say that how do we do this, because internet to hai nahi hamare paas. And then they fall into the trap of going into cyber cafes. The cyber cafe, and another vicious cycle of corruption comes out from there. So, is there a possibility? Could you tell us about whether it is a possibility? Are there problems? You can always come to that, but you can always tell us: is there a possibility of interinstitutional collaboration in the area of, firstly, providing uninterrupted internet in general to every citizen who is sitting in the bus stop should have an access to internet? What is the problem in getting that? And secondly, is there a possibility that we can actually talk of mitigating the digital divide to a significant extent through interinstitutional collaboration? I'm talking about institutions who are located in the same place. You have IIT Kharagpur, you also have panchayats in the same area. You also have other institutions and colleges in the same area. So, is it possible? I'm asking a scientist. How can we?
Let me give a slightly sort of elaborate answer to your question, and you have really brought up a very nice issue. I'll give you an example of a faculty member in the chemistry department of IIT Guwahati. His research is very interesting research. You all know that you take a piece of cotton and it absorbs water, right? So, but if there's oil, it doesn't absorb oil. So what it did was that he changed the strands of the cotton and made it absorb oil and not absorb water. So from a hydrophobic, which means hydrophilic rather, it become oleophilic, which is oil, this thing. And then, of course, that's a very good research. He's got very good publications. Probably a few PhDs have, graduated from his lab. But then, this is a technology that ONGC wanted badly to make the shore clear of all the disposed oil from the ships. So there's a lot of garbage oil that is being disposed, and which is extremely bad for the marine population. So the ONGC actually had, helped him putting it in, or rather making things in larger scale, and such that it sort of they can use it to clean up the water from the shore, to clean up the oil from the shore, leaving aside the water, because this new cotton with these new strands would not absorb water but would absorb oil. So, and then there are, other companies must have joined. I don't exactly know the details of that. But what I'm trying to come up with is that it is very important for various institutions to join hands not only to mitigate the digital divide, but it's also very important to help each other, because we have to think that we are building a nation, and
Absolutely.
nation is made of skilled people.
Absolutely.
And it's not our students or your
Your
students.
students. Yes.
It has to be a students of the country. And if we actually join hands to share infrastructure, to share facilities, to share digital infrastructure and so on, that is the thing that we are looking at, we should be looking at. And you have correctly identified that there's cybersecurity issues and there are data management issues, and there are many issues. I'll just come one by one. We all do online shopping. Who doesn't do? I mean, these Amazon and
Yes.
Flipkart, they are
They've
regular
changed our-
visitors.
They have changed our universe completely.
They have changed our universe completely, and how simple it is that you just type that name, the name appears, you get it at a lower cost. You don't have to go maybe 25 kilometers away, burning fuel, or sort of going by public transport and getting completely tired. At the end of the day, you get it at the comfort of your home. Someone delivers it, and there's an industry that has come up with. But at the same time, the moment you register yourself, you make an account and you buy something, they also keep a sort of a tab of that. They keep a knowledge of that, and they will tell you that people who bought this
Yes, absolutely.
also bought
Yes,
this.
absolutely.
And that's a very important things, that so there's a data proliferation of data. So they are making you aware that people with similar tastes are buying this thing. So would you like to go ahead with that? And more often than not, we do the same thing, and we create more data
Absolutely.
that get into the web, and it's been misused and so on. Often we get calls. So let me sort of come to a bit of numbers that are very important for us to understand the digital divide. It's probably improved a little bit post-COVID. We are probably not using as much of data as we used to use during COVID for online teaching and online conduct of this business or these offices. The corporates used to run all online. Things have improved a little, but still, see, the numbers are like only 25% of the rural Indian households, they are exposed to internet, and compared to a 66%
Yes,
of
it's
penetration into the cities.
And which is, in a way, it is so contradictory to IGNOU's mandate, because we are supposed to be grassroots and making inroads into 90% of rural population.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's the contradiction is so
Startling.
yes. How does anyway? Please go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, when we were teaching during COVID, so there was this guy who was somewhere in a village of close to Patna, a few hundred kilometers away, maybe, or at least 100 kilometers away from Patna. He could not attend classes, and then upon repeated asking that what happened to him and all that, so he made it clear that in his village there's no internet, so he had to come to Patna, rent out a house, take an internet connection, attend classes, and so on. This is a ground reality that we may not be sitting in at the comfort of our home with a broadband internet always available. It may not be so easily fathomable for us that there's a digital divide that exists still now. And there are these private parties like Jio and Airtel and BSNL. They have joined hands. They have made these broadbands available at an affordable price, but it's coming up, and we are probably being fairly optimistic that all will have internet, and all will do these online shopping and take part in online education. Like all these, if you open your radio, you'll see that the farmers are being advised to report their,
they're very, very good apps for
Exactly.
farmer. I was seeing an app which can take a photograph of the diseased plant,
Yeah.
and you feed it to the app, and it identifies that disease and tells, now for this particular disease you have to use this thing.
Absolutely.
It's for house plants,
House
but
plants.
it can also, I'm sure they have for thing. Now who accesses this?
Yeah, exactly. So this is the farmers, they should have these apps. There are portals in which they would upload that with the pictures that this is what is happening to their crops, and what could be the remedy for taking care of such such infections or such insects that are invading that locality. So there is a digital divide that still exists. We are getting to it. We are sort of reaching there almost. Many private parties, they have the broadband connections have made it the internet to be available. The divide still exists, but it is getting lesser as the day progresses. So I
So you
believe
think the divide will stay, but it may shift?
it may shift. The divide will probably stay for a few more years till we see a saturation in the usage, because we also we are getting a little sort of aware of the fact that always using
Yes, so you
internet.
have some people who are going to deliberately come out of the
Absolutely.
bandwagon and thing. Well,
Right,
this
right.
has been such a wonderful discussion with you, and for me, it's been even a personal journey of learning. And thank you so much. And we would conclude our podcast today, and with absolutely heartfelt great gratitude to Professor Basu for being with us here. And till we meet for a next topic, and you're welcome to give us your suggestions and maybe anything that you would like us to have a discussion on, topics which interest you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.